Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of correlation and regression, we will be considering the price development so far, which have been rather tepid if we look at the movement in European trading session and even after the start of the North American trading session. We haven't really seen much large moves, sharp moves in any direction. Rather than that, compared to the most sessions of the last week, we have a rather range bound scenario prevailing in today's session. So, in light of this, we will be considering the movements in these USD currency crosses to see if there are any emerging opportunities for us which we can exploit. So if we look at the chart of the AUD USD here, as I was saying in my introductory remark, the things are not really going anywhere. The currencies are not really going anywhere, and as you can see, the range is also narrower compared to the last few trading sessions with these almost identical lows and highs being formed over last couple of hours. Let's move to the currency instrument of our choice, the Euro USD, the most liquid instrument in the Forex universe. So if we look at the Euro USD chart, here it has also been trading in this range of around 30-35 pips, and of late it did went on to make this high just slightly below 1.08. From there on, it has been again consolidating while holding these prior swing high in place. So we are seeing some sort of support coming into play as the price has approached this prior swing high, which was broken a while back. And I'm not really expecting any significant move on either side. I think we will have to keep these price moves in mind and plan our trades accordingly, where we will have to brace for the extended consolidation in this North American trading session. Let us look at the bigger picture from the larger time frame charting. There is this consolidation going on with some retracement from the lower levels after making a low at 1.071. There has been this retracement on the higher side. Some buying has come into the euro and it has tried to retrace back towards 1.08, but it will be interesting to see if it is able to cross and hold above 1.08 or not. So far the things are moving rather slowly. The momentum is not really there. So in this scenario, I would say that we should simply try to exploit the range. So whatever is the existing range, if we simply take into consideration and go for the long trades closer to the low of this range and profit booking on the higher side of the range, I think that will be a more appropriate stance to take in these kind of markets. And of course, when we have to take a buy, we should be going for the most bullish instrument for buy. And when we have to take the short sell, we should be going for the most bearish instrument for shorting. So that's where this correlational technique comes into play, and we will have to compare the charting, the formation of highs and lows of these major currencies trading against the dollar to see if the euro is a better choice to buy, or if we have other instruments which are looking better, or we should be shorting these particular currencies. Any currency where we see the bearishness to be prominent, we can even consider that particular currency for short sale. Now, if we consider the Euro USD's highs and lows timeline and compare it to the timeline of, say, GBP USD, we will be able to draw the inference. So let's do that. For GBP USD, things have looked slightly better, slightly more bullish. If we look at this charting for the GBP USD, it has been following a similar trajectory. There is not really much of a difference for the GBP and for the Euro. If we consider the timeline, its low came in at 9:25 GMT. For the euro, the low came in a bit later. So as I said, the GBP is looking slightly better in comparison to the euro. There is not much of a difference from the bigger picture. Let's consider its hourly charting as well. And on the hourly timeline also, the pullback from these lows has been higher for the GBP USD in comparison to the euro. So on both this count, the GBP USD seems to be better placed in comparison to the euro. So for any trade, if you are looking for a long trade, then the GBP is looking a lot better choice in comparison to the euro. Now, the question is whether we should be going for a long trade at the current levels. Then I would say that if the GBP USD seems to hold around these levels, this prior swing high, which was broken a while back, needs to act as a sort of support. So the GBP USD shouldn't really dive much on the lower side. It should be able to hold these levels for at least an hour or two. And if it does that, then I think we have reasons to believe in its current strength from the intraday perspective, and we can indeed go for a long trade. And it is looking more bullish, slightly more bullish in comparison to the euro as well. Let's consider the Asia Pacific currency of AUD. For AUD USD, the things are not that bullish as is the case for European currencies of GBP and Euro. Here you can notice that it is going almost sideways. It is making identical highs and lows. So its momentum is not as strong as is the case for Euro and GBP. So we should simply keep it on the back burner. We shouldn't pay much attention to the price trajectory of the AUD for any long trade. We have the better formation in place for Euro and GBP. The NZD is not showing much difference. The NZD is also having a similar timeline, similar price line, and apparently it is more bearish than the AUD as well. It has been making these lower lows and lower highs for a while now. So for any short sell trade, the NZD is going to be the first choice, and for the buy trade, the GBP is there for us to help us out in figuring out the trading opportunities. Let's consider the hourly timeline. From the medium term perspective also, things are quite bearish for the NZD. Here we can notice that from its prior swing low, it has again gone on to make a fresh swing low. So that is a major difference in comparison to the Euro and the GBP. So for any short sell trade, the NZD is going to be a better choice, a first choice you can say, for initiating the short sell trade in today's session. So there is the whole spectrum of possibilities in these currencies, major currencies trading against the US dollar. Now we will have to invert the scale and consider these USD CAD, USD CHF, and USD JPY. For USD CAD, the CAD has been appreciating against the dollar for a while now. Just like the euro, it also made these high at around 10:50 GMT. That makes it less bullish in comparison to the GBP. GBP is better placed than the CAD as well. Let's consider its hourly charting. On the hourly timeline, the USD CAD has declined substantially from its high. So that's a significant development. It has been able to retrace back after losing ground, and that makes CAD also much better placed than the euro from the medium term charting. But from the intraday perspective, we will have to again take a fresh look and compare it to GBP USD. GBP made this high at 1725 GMT. For the CAD, it has come in just 5 minutes earlier in comparison to the GBP. So there is not much of a difference. And since the Canadian markets and the US market are going to remain open for longer hours in comparison to the UK, maybe that might be one of the reasons to give more preference to the GBP. But there is not much of a difference in terms of the timeline. So the strength of both these currencies trading against the dollar is more or less similar. But of course, CAD is looking better placed in comparison to the euro. And not to forget, it is of course a lot better placed for a long trade in comparison to the NZD and AUD. Let's consider the story for USD CHF. For USD CHF, the CHF has been appreciating. It is also going sideways. It is not really strongly bullish for today's trading session. If you look at this formation, it made this low, and after that it has been able to hold around these levels. Let's consider its medium term charting. So for CHF as well, we have seen it decline from these highs. So from medium term perspective as well, things are turning for the CHF, and it is gaining ground against the US dollar. So for today's session, it is inclined to appreciate against the US dollar now. Whether it is better placed than GBP or for that matter CAD, then I think no, not really. Here it had gone on to make this 4 hourly swing high. So that puts it quite behind the CAD and the GBP. We still will do well to go for the long trade against the dollar in CAD or GBP. CHF is not really that strong. For Euro, things are again starting to look bullish. I think similar kind of price formation is there for the GBP as well. USD JPY is also slightly appreciating of late, but JPY is not something you would like to go long. Rather than going long, for today's session, the JPY is looking a lot bearish, and it will be a good idea to keep looking for opportunities to go short. So, along with the NZD, JPY is one currency which is quite bearish in today's trading session against the US dollar. Now, if on the current levels, you can go for a short sell trade. For that, I think we will have to wait it out. If we see it holding these levels above 131, this prior swing low is providing some sort of support on the current levels, but it will need to consolidate for much longer time, at least a couple of hours on these current levels. Then we can be fairly confident. We can gain in confidence and think about initiating a long in the USD JPY while expecting the JPY to remain bearish. So along with the NZD, the JPY is one of the most bearish instrument in today's trading session. Now let's consider the equity segment. The US equities, after making this high at 32,540, the Dow has also corrected almost half a percentage point from those levels. Let me consider the larger time frame. So from Friday's trading session, we are seeing the equities trading on the higher ground in today's trading session, not really far off from these prior swing highs. Actually, now this swing high is higher than the prior swing high. So that is something which is likely to provide some reasons for us to not go short or even for that matter not go long on the current levels. It is simply consolidating in this range with the expectations of this consolidation to continue at least for next couple of sessions. I would say that we should simply try to exploit this range. So right now it is not really advisable to short it as it has made this fresh swing high, but then it is not really even advisable to go long on these current levels, as there is not much of an space on the higher side for it to appreciate from the current levels. So we will have to stick on the watch side. Maybe we will have to allow it more time to consolidate, and if things become much more clearer, then we can indeed think about initiating a new trade. Let me see if the Dow is looking bearish or bullish in comparison to the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. The S&P 500 is looking less bullish in comparison to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Even it hasn't really made this high above this prior swing high. So that is also one reason I think we should go cautiously. If you are going for a long trade, then the Dow Jones is slightly better placed in comparison to the S&P 500. Let's consider the Nasdaq. For Nasdaq, the things are even more bearish in comparison to the S&P 500. So in today's trading session, if you are looking to short the equity indices, then Nasdaq is going to be your first choice, as we have these clear-cut bearishness, both in terms of the timeline as well as in terms of the magnitude. The decline is much more pronounced for the Nasdaq in comparison to the Dow Jones and the S&P 500. So I would suggest that if you are looking to short the equity indices, then for that the Nasdaq is going to be the appropriate choice. And if you feel that maybe after due consolidation things are likely to turn for better and start rising, then keep a watch on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and there I think opportunities are likely to emerge moving ahead. So that's my take looking at the equity indices and the currency crosses, the major currencies trading against the US dollar, where we saw the whole spectrum of possibilities. The GBP and CAD are looking quite bullish, slightly bullish, you can say, in comparison to the other major currencies, and JPY and NZD are on the bearish spectrum. And in the equity segment, we have the Nasdaq, which is bearishly inclined, whereas for the Dow, things are not that bearish at the moment. So that's my take looking at the current scenario, current price action of these major equity indices. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead, a profitable day ahead. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.